Riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey. With me, as always, chocolate starfish to my hot dog flavored water, co-host extraordinaire, Timothy Richardson. Tim, how are you doing, buddy?
Really bad, Garrett. Really bad. And for a couple of reasons this week.
Am I aware of them?
I mean, at least one of them. First of all, Garrett, The first reason, I need to issue a correction from last week. I told you a story about David collecting the foreskin of 200 of his enemies.
Yes, and I immediately assumed it was wrong.
Okay, right. Well, so I may have misspoken slightly because I implied that Saul demanded that he collect 200 foreskins to get to marry his daughter. That's not what happened at all. You see, Garrett, Saul, wanting David to prove to him that he was worthy of marrying his daughter, asked him to collect 100 Philistines' foreskins. Got the number a little wrong, admittedly. Now, in my defense, David, in an effort to impress his soon-to-be father-in-law, went above and beyond and killed 200 Philistines and presented their foreskins to Saul as payment. That got him his sweet, sweet wife. That is 1 Samuel 18:27. Please stop emailing us biblical corrections, you sons of bitches.
Yeah, those are the least liked corrections. Now, I'm probably going to regret this, but you said that's how he got his wife.
Oh, yes, Garrett. Saul, of course, you know, the king. David came to him and said, I would like to marry your daughter. And he said, you look kind of like a pussy. Here's what you do if you want to marry my sweet daughter. Give me those 100 foreskins. And so David was like, 100? I'll see your 100. I'll raise you 100. And he came out with 200. And then Saul said, here's the lady. Also, I'm terrified of you. That was a bit. This was me saying, no, you can't marry my daughter. And I don't really know. What do you do with all these foreskins? I mean, I guess
deep fry them, eat them like calamari.
Ooh.
I assume.
No.
I don't know. That's disgusting.
I mean, maybe. Anyway, Garrett, the other thing that has been happening this week, I really think we need to revisit our listen to every album and song and watch every music video and movie 10 times during the week policy. I will admit that was great when we started. I'm sure most of our audience enjoyed listening to Rage Against the Machine 10 times with us. But this movie, I spent 16 and a half hours of my week watching this goddamn movie. Plus, when we get to the movie, we're going to watch it for the 11th time live on the show with the viewing audience. Those of you who have found the feed, we have to change this policy for movies.
Yeah, no, I agree. This has been a tremendous waste of a week. I had to use 2 sick days.
Garrett, every week is a tremendous waste of a week.
You know, the numbers don't lie. You are correct. We are literally talking to nobody. But that's okay, Tim. We're talking to each other. And that's all we need. Because, frankly, that's all we've got. So, we will soldier on. I will take under consideration. Let's make a motion. Gino, get out the pen. We're going to make a motion to reduce the number of watches for movies from 10 to, what do you propose, 8, 9?
I think 7. 7 seems fair.
Are you going to get the essence with 7 watches?
Well, we're going to, of course, watch it the 8th time live here on the show with our viewing audience. Those of you who have found the feed.
Interesting. But we'll edit the watch-alongs out, as we always have, right? That's just for the live.
We'll see.
Okay. I mean, it's going to be a weird episode. It'll be a record-setting episode if we do that. But, you know, I'm game. Okay. All right. We'll take it under advisement. Obviously, we can't put it to a vote here live on the air, but we'll table it for now, and we'll bring it to the floor in our next session. 7. Wild stuff. Okie dokie, Tim. That's how you're doing. Don't bother asking me. I know you don't care. What movie did you watch 10 times this week?
I watched the excellently bad film, musical, garage opera, garbage opera, Italian, filth piece. I don't know what this is. Garrett, Repo. Excuse me. I almost messed that up. Repo! The genetic opera. Released in 2008 to what I'm guessing is zero fanfare. Garrett, what movie did you watch this week?
The same. We watched the same movie.
All right.
That's shocking to me. That remains unclear to you. But no, rest assured.
You gave me attitude for not asking you how you were.
Right. I'm not asking you to mirror everything I ask you. I'm asking you to be a normal adult who can hold a conversation. Mm-hmm. I'm also asking you to take an interest. Dysfunction aside, Tim, after an entire week, 10 watches, a whole 7 days with Roti and the gang. I am so curious. Do you hate this movie?
You know, the first 2 times I watched it, Garrett, I fucking hated this movie. Now, watches 3 through 7, I developed a sort of Stockholm syndrome with it, and I kind of started to like it. Watches 8 to 9, I developed a sort of Munchausen syndrome by proxy with it. I began poisoning your blood to convince you had some sort of genetic disorder so we could spend more time in the hospital and less time watching this movie.
Tough 48 hours.
Viewing number 10, Garrett, I was so close to hating it again. I stopped just short of hating it based on my fascination with how bad this is, why anyone would have made this, and why after they made it, and then presumably they watched it after it was all edited together, they didn't immediately have some sort of Oppenheimerian reaction to their creation and just destroy this. It is kind of a perfect time capsule for what the world was like in 2008. I am 100% sure I will hate it by the end of the episode, but I'm going to hold off for now on the off chance that you somehow explain to me why exactly, as you said repeatedly this week, you love this movie so much. And I apologize, I guess I've spoiled your surprise. Garrett, do you hate this movie? And follow-up question, why not?
I hate this so much. I hate this so much.
That's excellent.
Very rarely do I find our show to be a chore. Sometimes I'm not in the mood, sometimes the jokes don't flow, but very rarely do I dread returning to the material. This week was a slog. We're going to say a lot today, and I'm going to be bold here, Tim. I want to say right up front, if anybody involved with the production of this film is listening, what the fuck? Why didn't you throw this away? It's bad. It's bad, and you know it's bad.
Here's the thing. I have on my phone right now, because I'm not quite done with this movie, because I found a couple of podcasts of people defending this, and I didn't want to listen to it because I might have a rage blackout and kill everyone.
Sure.
But I do have them ready for as soon as we stop this, because I have to know why anyone will like this. It's bad. Garrett, this is bad. It's bad. Yes.
We're going to spend a lot of time talking about specifically why it's bad, so let's put a pin in it. Let's keep going. Tim, prior to this week, what is your history with this movie? Were you even aware of it?
I was aware of it. There's a bunch of books and movies that have this organ repoing as sort of this satirical central concept. There's the Repo Men with Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker. That one came out, I think, a couple years after this, actually. But I think both of them are based on things that came out well before this musical. So I've seen some other things that are vaguely related to this, but I've never seen this. I assumed that this was much more similar to that Forrest Whitaker movie, and it is not. It's not. And that movie's not great either, as far as I remember.
Sure.
But yeah, what about you, friend? Have you seen this movie before?
No. My history is basically identical to yours with one small change. I could have sworn that was Ewan McGregor in that movie.
Oh, maybe.
I love it. I love it. One of us is wrong. Neither of us could bother to check. And that's fine. But yeah, almost identical. I knew this existed, but I kind of always put it firmly into a category I like to call not for me. I put anime there. I put Doctor Who in there, and
yes.
Now I put Repo in there.
But I can understand why somebody would like anime. I can understand why somebody would like Doctor Who, and I'm sure we're going to get a bunch of emails from our weird listeners who love this, and are going to explain exactly why they like it. I don't get it. I don't understand. It is poorly performed across the board. Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, but before we do, Tim, and boy, I don't know what this section's going to look like. You and I virtually know history. We knew it was out there, actively avoided it. Before we can talk about the movie itself, and God, so many notes. Folks, if you've not seen this movie, you're in for an hour of very confusing conversation. So if you haven't seen it, please take a moment, go pause, at least go read the Wikipedia page, because we're going to get deep. Oh, we're going to watch it right after we do this part, I think.
It's the only way to address it all. So please, catch the fuck up. Anyway, that aside, before we can talk about it, we need to understand a little bit about how it got made. And I don't know, Tim, you do the research here on the show. You are the show's official historian. Take us on a journey, help us understand. What is this movie? How did this come to be?
Well, this week I wasn't exactly sure how to tackle this. So what I did, I kind of went through the cast, the director, the producer, the writer, etc. And I got a little bit of information about each one of these people. These are mostly almost fun facts. Okay. They're not fun. None of them are going to be fun. But they're facts. Some of them are false. I have some things I'm going to say about the people that made this. Garrett, here we go. The director, Darren Lynn Bousman. He is the director of Saw 2, Saw 3, and, you guessed it, Saw 4. Now, he continues to make movies to this day. His most recent movie was filmed in Egypt, Vienna, and Saudi Arabia, among other places. It premiered in Riyadh. Do you want to guess what it's called?
Repo?
That's right, Garrett, The Cello. And it is about an aspiring cellist who acquires, and this is true, an insidious cello. It sounds fucking awesome, and the main character is played by, you guessed it, Jeremy Irons.
Wait, this is a real thing?
Yeah, 100%. It's weird, though, because that movie sounds like he's on the up and up, but it seems like he's had nothing but crushing failures. He's done a couple of other horror-adjacent musicals with some of the other people that are involved in this, including Paul Sorvino. We'll get to him in a second. But it's weird because this movie, the movie we're currently talking about, it looks like, imagine Tim Burton, but you take him and you hold his head underwater for 7 minutes, and then you revive him. He has a severe anoxic brain injury, and then you tell him he's supposed to direct an Evanescence music video, but then, right before they start shooting, you just rub Vaseline all over the camera lens. Nobody notices. My point is, who's giving this guy more work?
Yeah, that's very confusing. Nobody should look at this and be like, oh, I'll write a check for that. It is nothing.
Yeah. Well, some of his subsequent movies along this vein, not the Saw ones, I think those were before this, but they have a budget that's approximately 1/17 the budget of this movie, so it seems like at least they stopped giving him as much money.
This guy's name is Darren Bousman?
Darren Lynn Bousman, something. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there he is. Sorry, because there's another. I thought there was a Darren Smith in the mix as well.
There is. He's one of the writers. We'll get to him.
How does this story contain two Darrens?
Well, I think there's your problem. One Darren is fine. It's like the No Homers Club. You can have one. You throw two Darrens in that mix, this isn't going to work well.
Same rule for Daves. Love a Dave. Daves, no sir.
Fair enough.
Oil and water. You can't have more than one. They can't occupy the same space. Time cop rules.
Interesting. The main character, Shiloh Wallace, the girl with the unspecified blood disease, we'll get to it, is played by the super Christian Alexa Penavega. Her father was a Colombian fashion photographer and CIA informant in Colombia. Now, she grew up mostly in California and Florida, probably because the family had to flee Colombia after her father betrayed her country, and she was homeschooled
He did not betray his country.
He did.
He betrayed
Colombia.
No.
Yes.
Do you want to take that again?
What?
Escobar. He betrayed Escobar.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So he betrayed his country. That's what I said.
God damn it.
Anyway, Garrett. She grew up in Florida and California. She was a child actress. She was in the excellent film Little Giants. She was in Garrett's beloved Twister. She was in Spy Kids, which Garrett weirdly has several cameos in. And finally, this in 2008. She did so well in this movie that she was immediately cast in the film Helix, aka Innocent, a 2009 film that was notable as the first feature-length film to be shot entirely in one take, and it is as good as that sounds. Ugh. She's also been in Machete Kills, the second Sin City movie, some other garbage, doesn't really matter. Her father was a CIA spy in Colombia, and that is definitely the most interesting part of this story.
Yes.
Paul Sorvino. He plays the head of Ginko, Roti Largo. You probably know him from a bunch of gangster movies. He was in Goodfellas, Dick Tracy, The Rocketeer, Kill the Irishman, L&O, one episode of Murder, She Wrote, some other stuff. Interesting fact about him, he quit L&O to preserve his vocal cords for singing opera. So he is into this, Garrett. Were you aware?
Wait, what is L&O?
Law and Order.
Oh, I hate you so much right now. Wait, so, okay, that's going to tick one question off immediately. He actually likes to sing operatically.
Yes, but here's the thing. It seems like he's not an opera singer.
Right. He's not.
Well, right, but okay. Anyway, he said, most people think I'm either a gangster or a cop or something, but the reality is I'm a sculptor, a painter, a best-selling author, many, many things, a poet, an opera singer, but none of them is a gangster. But obviously I sort of have a knack for playing these things. Basically, he doesn't want to be known as a gangster. He wants to be known as an artist and a singer. And I've never seen his art, Garrett, but his singing is not impressive.
No, and I'm sorry. I knew Paul Sorvino as an actor. Do people not realize actors aren't the things that they play?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't know. He was Henry Kissinger. He refers to him as Dr. Kissinger, which I find offensive.
Yeah, why are you... we can't get into that. But that's just very odd. He's just like, well, I just want everybody to know I'm not really a gangster. Yeah, man, you're an actor. Arguably, we should probably mention this, the only legitimate actor in this movie.
Yes. And he is a good actor. He's just not a good actor in this.
Right, which speaks to the quality of the writing.
Well, sort of. It speaks to the quality of the writing and the fact that they make him sing all of his lines.
Sort of. Sometimes he talks them, or chants them.
Yeah, that's fair. Anthony Stewart Head, he plays Repo. If you know him at all, you know him from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was in like 120 episodes of that or so. I believe he got this role because he sang once in that, and people heard his singing and were like, more of that, please. You also might know him from Merlin, where he played Uther Pendragon. I maybe hate him he's terrible. He's terrible.
Yeah,
but
he's terrible.
I will say, clearly they wanted like John Lithgow to play this role, right?
Right.
But obviously that's not going to happen. I kind of like a little bit of the Jekyll and Hyde stuff he does in this. And I can't help but think of a John Lithgow character doing this and it being fucking great.
I would enjoy that. Now, let's keep in mind, the writing is awful. The songs are really not songs, and the music is pure hot shit. But of all the... I'm not going to compliment this pile of horse shit, but yeah, he's fairly enjoyable to watch. He can sing.
Right.
The lyrics here are so bad that it makes it sound like he can't.
Absolutely. Now, Garrett, on to Sarah Brightman. She plays Blind Mag. She is a genuinely great singer.
Yes.
She does a great job with a lot of what she's given.
She's the only one in the whole movie that you're just like, oh, you must be a singer. And then I Googled it and I was like, oh yeah, you're a soprano something.
Yeah, right. She was part of Hot Gossip. I'm sure that's what you're talking about. She had a 1978 hit with the song I Lost My Heart to a Starship Trooper. You might also know her from a bunch of Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals and also from being married to him. She was the original Christine in the first Phantom of the Opera in 1986, and she was goddamn magnificent. I don't know why you're not absorbing the city's culture like I am, Garrett. It's embarrassing, but...
I don't like this segment. Hold on. This is now two people, though. You were married to Andrew Lloyd Webber. You're in 120 episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's not a money thing. So why are you in this?
The love of the craft, Garrett. They all thought this was gonna be awesome. And here's the thing. The concept of this, a repo men stealing people's organs. You could do a horror movie. You could do a sci-fi movie. The idea to do it as a stage musical is so ridiculous that, it was either gonna be the most brilliant take possible or what we got.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things like you're watching like Jimi Hendrix play guitar and you're like, this is brilliant. Now, if he was playing this just slightly different, it would be a kid fucking around with a guitar.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we got the kid fucking around with a guitar part.
Yeah. What you're saying is it's a fine line between brilliant and bullshit, and they just tipped into bullshit.
They didn't tip in, Garrett. This is like a mile into bullshit. But my point is that on paper, when you throw this idea out there, I can see how it got financed.
Oh, sure.
Paris Hilton, of course, she plays Amber Sweet, one of Rotti's kids. She's terrible. They actually didn't want to hire her for this because they thought that this was too good for her, the producers and whatnot. It's not. This is on her level. This is perfect for her. She
might be too good for it.
Nope, she's not. She got a well-deserved golden raspberry for this.
Of course she did. Hold on. I didn't even realize it was her until the last scene that she has asking for a face when she gets like a botched face job.
Oh, really?
I was like, well, look at that. Because I didn't want to spoil anything. So the first time I watched it, I didn't look at anything. Yeah. And I was like, oh, no shit. It's Paris Hilton. Okay.
Fair enough. Garrett, Bill Moseley, he plays Luigi Largo, the randomly violent of Rotti's kids. He went to Yale. He was in a band with Buckethead and a bunch of other horror movies. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Night of the Living Dead remake, some Rob Zombie stuff, Grindhouse, fake trailers, etc. He way overacts throughout, as we will get to. And then, Garrett, there is Nivek Ogre. Nivek Ogre. He plays Pavilargo, the only actor who noticed the names of these characters and realized he was supposed to be exceedingly Italian, and he just fucking goes for it. And it's weird. Like, you'd expect that halfway through he'd get self-conscious when no one else is doing that accent. But
it was weird, right?
Yeah. He is the guy who wears someone else's face over his face throughout the whole movie. Nivek Ogre was born, of course, Kevin Graham Ogilvie, I guess. Nivek is, of course, Kevin backward. It's pretty cool. He has been in several movies with this director, but more notably, Garrett, he is the vocalist and main driving force for the band Skinny Puppy, which we discussed on a very previous Spooktacular. Didn't look up which one. He's also a failed vegan.
Wait, a failed what?
Vegan.
Oh,
He attempted, but,
just couldn't hack it.
Got pretty sick, I guess. It's weird, though, because the Luigi and Pavi actors have the chemistry of two people who have just never met, like on screen or off. Like, they I cannot believe that they rehearsed any of this together. It's like you hired two people, intentionally kept them apart, maybe didn't even give them the other's lines, you just gave them your lines, and like there's a blank line in between everything you're supposed to say, and then just threw them in a room together, and we're just make it work, first take, last take, out the door.
The whole movie feels like it's put together from other movies.
Yes.
Like, they were just like, shit, we shot a third of 4 different movies that have nothing to do with each other, but luckily had the same cast and costumes. We're gonna make it work.
Yeah. Finally, there's Terrence Zdunich. He plays the grave robber / narrator. He was an illustrator and storyboarder for live action and animated films, including Into the Wild. He made all the animated segments for this. He met co-writer Darren Smith, and they started writing and performing 10-minute rock operas around Los Angeles, which is how the idea for this came to be. It was originally called The Necro Merchant's Debt. So they were performing this as 10-minute rock operas. They made a short film that had Michael Rooker in it somehow. Yeah. Ooh, Christopher Waltz. He would be good as the Repo guy. Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, as the Repo Man.
Yeah. And Joan Jett, of course, has a small cameo playing guitar.
Oh, you spoiled it.
Oh. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, though, because the Shiloh character seems to be based on a combination of her, Avril Lavigne, and Amy Lee from Evanescence.
And possibly the littlest girl on Full House.
Yes.
Played by the Olsen twins.
Yes.
Like, there's a real disconnect between how old this girl is in real life and how old they're having her play, and it's gross, frankly.
Yeah.
It leads to some pretty gross stuff.
Yes. So, again, this is a musical from the folks who brought us Saw, as we see in the very first opening production company logos.
Oh, the Twisted Pictures and
I saw
what's the
that.
other one?
I don't know.
Castle Rock? No, not Castle Rock. Who's the other one? Lionsgate. That's right. You see the Lionsgate gears, and then you see the Twisted Pictures with the barbed wire, and you're like, oh boy, I know what I'm in for.
Yeah. This came about. Darren Smith had a friend who was going through bankruptcy. His possessions were going into foreclosure, and inspired by this, he came up with the idea of a future where not only one's property, but also one's body parts could be repossessed. Of course, he was probably also influenced by the many previous works that include this as some sort of dystopian idea. He described the film as Blade Runner meets Rocky Horror.
I think you failed on both measures, bud.
Fair enough. Most of the music for this was produced by Yoshiki from X Japan. Now, he also composed a song in honor of the 10th anniversary of Japan's Emperor Akihito, his enthronement, at the request of the Japanese royal family in 1999. Now, I know it wasn't the exact same music, but I love imagining that a 66-year-old Japanese emperor ascended to the throne for whatever this 10th anniversary party is, and just this industrial techno fucking
noise
new
rock
metal bullshit that's also got a lot of pop punk in it was just blaring out, and that's just what he had to deal with.
Ugh, I would watch that endlessly on YouTube if that was the case.
Yeah. Maybe it is. Maybe it's even the same lyrics. Who knows? The only other thing I want to say before we watch this movie in its entirety with our viewing audience, Garrett, does anyone involved in this production understand what a gene is? Because first, they seem to
the title.
They seem to think getting an organ transplant somehow changes your genetics. But if you're going to write an entire musical or movie about a subject, let's just use genetics as an example. Like, skim the Wikipedia page.
I was kind of confused what made it a genetic opera.
Well, but there's so many references to genes, and you inherited murderous tendencies from from in your genes and et cetera, your genes don't live up to
weird.
mine.
I considered all of that outside of the organ transplant storyline.
Agreed, but I mean, again, it's the genetic opera, and when they do the opera, it's a genetic opera. I mean,
well, I don't know what that means exactly. I guess it's a family opera. It's an opera about family.
I guess.
Unless maybe I don't know the word genetic.
I mean, you definitely don't.
That's rude. If I knew more about genetics, I would argue. Yeah, okay.
Let's watch it. Let's just watch this movie, and then
Can we watch it at least at like 1.5x speed?
I mean, probably not.
Why?
Let's just do it.
I'm not gonna talk about this for 90 more minutes.
Right.
Just know that.
Okay, well, listening audience, we will see you in an hour and a half. It didn't get better, Garrett.
It did not. Honestly, Tim, I wish we hadn't done that. I could say that confidently.
Yeah, 11 times is at least 2 times too many.
Well, I thought I might squeeze out a couple more notes. Frankly, I erased a few.
Yeah, we gotta shorten this shit up. I guess we go through the plot and just shoot the shit as we go?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I've got notes that go from the first frame to the last.
Oh, fair enough.
So yeah, I even gave each scene its own title.
Now, did you use the titles?
No, I wrote them myself.
Because they're...
Things like Graveyard, Sick in the Bedroom.
Oh, you should have used the ones...
Oh, some of them are theirs. Okay. Some of them are theirs, like Nathan's story. We don't need to rewrite that.
Some of them are really offensive, though. I will tell you this. You say this was a long movie. They did cut quite a bit of stuff. They cut the song, and this is true, Can't Get It Up If the Girl Is Breathing.
Good choice. I assume that was a Luigi song.
It's a musical number.
Now, you say they cut some things, but I just want to put some math around it, folks. In case you're not keeping up, there are 56 songs in this movie and 14 additional songs that are instrumentals.
I disagree, Garrett. I think there is a single song in this movie.
There's a single musical song in this movie. That's for goddamn sure. What we're saying, folks, is every single scene just sounds like you've got fart rock going constantly in the background. I had to start tuning it out.
Well, yeah, after 5 or 6 watches, yeah.
And in fact, before we get into the movie, let's talk about the most important thing, maybe my biggest problem with the whole stupid movie. Well, first of all, I hate musicals.
Yeah. And see, that's the difference. I love them. For whatever reason, Garrett, I love musical theater.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that aside, I was under the impression that the songs, and I've been to musicals, I've seen Tommy and Chicago and the Mormon one and one other one maybe.
You wrote a musical once.
Yeah, I have. Written several, actually. Hate them. God, I hate them. But anyway, where I'm going with all this is I'm not unfamiliar with a musical. And one of the things that I thought was required, all but required, is that the songs in the musical are songs. Instead, in this movie, I would characterize them as melodic talking.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of get that. I mean, there's some musicals, obviously I don't want to compare
moments
this
of that
to the great Hamilton, Garrett. I don't know how you possibly hated Hamilton, but you did.
Too long. Way too long.
The point...
I thought the intermission was the end.
Yeah, you always do, though. You try to get us to leave at every intermission. Well, but I mean, the point is, if you're going to sing basically, or every line is supposed to be sung, at some point you got to just start kind of talk singing.
Sure, but this does it so ineffectively.
Oh, sure. Everything about this, the performances, the music, the writing, the story, the fucking sets, the scenes, everything about this, subpar.
I had to look up a synonym, and it got me to atonal. Mm-hmm. All of the singing in this is atonal.
Yes.
I would rather listen to you sing all of these songs.
Oh, you know what? I've got good news for you, Garrett. I have actually performed all of these songs, and I have replaced most of your vinyl with me performing these songs. drunks. Anyway, Garrett, the year is 2056, the very near future. 99% of people are dead from poorly explained organ failure epidemics, I guess genetic related. Doesn't make any goddamn sense. Everyone who remains lives in some sort of 20-block radius that is completely consumed by some sort of demon carnival. The whole thing looks like a terrible version of what I imagined from that book, The Pilo Family Circus. It's the sort of place that Pennywise wouldn't look out of place in, but not in a good way. At the beginning of this, they do sort of a overview of the world. The camera sort of pans over some stuff. It appears the world is about 70% cemetery, 20% gene co, and 10% like actual city where miscreants dress like Victorian clowns. This, I mean, it makes sense for like a stage play, but you should really build the world out for like an actual movie. It feels
it's
like
confounding because they use terrible CGI to build out what is still, you put it very, very well, mostly a cemetery and gene co.
Yeah, it looks like this whole entire planet fits on like Rikers Island.
Local references. Local references. Love it. Now, I'm curious if you had the same reaction I did. So it opens with this like comic book style opening explaining like the situation, basically the plot synopsis Tim just gave us. When that was happening with the music, I was like, oh, no shit, this is going to rock.
Oh, yeah.
I'm into this.
I assumed that this was going to be a cartoon after about a minute in. Like, I was like, I may have just
Yeah, maybe I just misunderstood. I'm into this. This looks good. It sounds pretty good. And then the gut punch. When those comics stop, they do a long, slow pan over the quote-unquote city, and it looks like a cutscene from a PS2 movie or any scene in Spawn. And what's his name? The grave robber appears.
Oh, yeah, the narrator, yeah.
Yeah, / narrator. And for folks who haven't seen it, and again, this is going to be tough if you haven't, picture a mascara-wearing, open shirt fancy boy that's trying to seduce you through the camera.
Absolutely.
Oh, but the production value is just south of Sesame Street.
Yes. And during this whole part, in the background, there's this Repo Man chorus in the background.
Oh, yeah.
It made me laugh every time because every time I heard it, I just heard Conquest, right? In my head, it's Repo Man. He was out to make a repo. Didn't care what harm was done just as long as he won the spine.
Wow.
Like, it just, in my head, every time after all those repos, I just heard this, God damn it. Come on.
That's awesome. I did not have that.
Well, of course not.
So after the mascara-wearing narrator / grave robber walks onto this cheap set and explains the situation, we see a woman running through a warehouse that looks curiously like a Saw house. Green tinted, a lot of candles for some reason, and nothing really has like an open door. And the Repo Man finds her and cuts her heart out.
Right. And this movie, it's Saw-like in that it's graphic, but it like none of it really looks, well, Saw looks much better than this. It's kind of like they're going for graphic, but they also didn't have the budget to make that look good.
Yeah, and maybe we're trying to avoid like a NC-17 by making it silly. Like they're going for camp, like an Evil Dead feel, but it's so bad.
Yeah. All right. We kind of get in the background that there's this company, right? This is in the initial title. So to set this up, there's a company, Gene Co. They do organ transplants. It's unclear where they get all the organs initially, if there was such a huge organ failure epidemic. I guess it's an organ failure epidemic, obviously, that affects different organs in everyone. Unclear exactly why. And then they sort of explain this payment plan. If you miss a payment, assassins called Repo Men hunt you down and get that colon back. There's a lot of colons. But it also has led to a huge market for designer surgeries. Everyone's addicted to surgery in this world.
Yeah, that's incredibly important. And I'm going to ask you an honest question. Did you get the impression that Gene Co was killing people and just taking their organs? Like, where are these organs coming from? And there's a scene later, it doesn't really matter. This movie's stupid, so we're not spoiling anything, where, like, they stumble upon just a massive number of dead people.
Yes, well, so I kind of didn't get that impression because...
I didn't either.
The Repo Men, they kind of are only taking, and this is jumping way ahead, but the Repo Men are kind of only taking back the repoed organs. They're not also stealing all the other organs, which I would definitely do.
But I had the question that you had, like, where are all these these organs coming from?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And listen, the answer to most questions with this movie is they never address it and they didn't think it through.
Right.
And that's fine with me, because this movie's... I'm so mad.
Oh, maybe they could have made it like an hour longer and addressed all of these questions.
There's an uncut, a director's cut. Oh my God. All right, so that sets the table. Massive organ failure. GeneCo is mysteriously getting all these organs. They will sell them to you on a financing plan. But if you miss your payment, they'll take the organ back, leaving you to slowly die. We should also mention, Tim, that they also mentioned in the opening this drug that GeneCo's created called Zydrate that like is a massive painkiller that helps with the now very frequent surgeries. But as all people will do with all painkillers, they abuse it. However, there's black market Zydrate that you can get from dead people, ? They extract it from their brain and it glows blue.
Yeah, it is unclear if this is a product of the dead or if these people are just injecting so much of it that their like brain is just sloshing around in Zydrate and so they're just getting the residual. I
like that idea. That's a much better idea than what this movie has.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Mr. Sorvino. After we get a little rundown from the mascara-wearing, open-shirted grave robber, more on him in a bit, we jump to Rotti, who is our main villain and is played by Paul Sorvino. It hurts my heart to watch him do this. But according to you, he had a ball.
I guess.
I only remember him, well, not only, I mostly remember him from Goodfellas.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the scene, we learn that Rotti is dying, presumably of cancer. A doctor brings him the results, and for some reason, he then executes him for no apparent reason.
Well, this movie has a real kill the messenger problem. They do this a lot. But yeah, one of his sexy twin assistants shoots him. And
we should talk about that. He does have sexy twin henchmen played by ladies. And I want to be clear, like, I think the idea was to make all of this very sexy, but it mostly makes me kind of uncomfortable, and it's very trashy.
Yes, especially when all the surgeons are lingerie-clad ladies. It doesn't make much sense.
You mean the Genterns?
Is that what they're called?
Yes.
God damn it.
This is why we both have to watch.
Yeah, that's fair.
We just key in on different things.
Yeah, also, I did notice that the paper the doctor gives him is translucent, and that's pretty cool feature.
I was gonna ask you about that. Is that just, why is everything in the future clear?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't want to watch TV on a clear screen. Like, I don't know if anybody knows how projectors work, but they work best on a white background. TVs, same thing.
Yeah.
So stupid. Then we cut to a graveyard where they're cutting in between the graveyard and Sorvino, who's left his apartment, or who's left GeneCo, we'll say. And I think he's driving about, but at this point, he's not singing. He's more just, kind of talking in a rhythmic way. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
We get to the graveyard, and there's a woman in a gas mask whom we've not yet met, and she's in the mausoleum of someone named Marnie Wallace. More on that in a bit. She gets distracted by a giant CGI bug.
Yeah.
There's so much in this movie that's poorly, fleshed out. It leaves me thinking I missed something, because here's what happens,
I think it's supposed to be a real bug.
Yeah, it's a real bug, because she pulls out a book called Insects and starts looking at, this is true. And she's like, I don't see this glowing blue CGI bug in my book called Insects. I'm going to try to catch it with a cup. Doesn't catch it. She chases it outside. And this is where the grave robber, Mascara Man, reappears, where he appears to be extracting Zydrate alternative from dead people.
Yeah, people have an absolute shit ton of this stuff in their heads, and he's just sucking it out of them. There's tons of signs that say grave robbers will be executed on sight, but for whatever reason, the grave robber just sings at the top of his lungs at a SWAT team that's guarding the cemetery. It's a very early bad song, one of many, but it's my job to steal and rob graves. Yeah.
I don't,
of course,
I don't know why he did that.
You shout and you're going to alert the authorities. Happens every time. It is silly. So they begin running. They're both hiding. Well, she's hiding and he's screaming. And they bust through a wall. The grave robber kind of uses a corpse as a battering ram.
Not kind of, friend. He just full on does.
And they break through this wall and end up in a mass grave for some reason. Yeah, and the grave robber gets a little bit more of that sweet Zydrate. He yells again, alerting everyone where they are. And then he fucks off and she gets caught and they're about to execute her. Who saves her? Is it Repo or Rati?
It's Repo.
Okay, because I feel like I thought that, because Rati is watching this whole thing, right?
Yeah, they keep cutting to him. He's like on his way to the graveyard. Or maybe, oh, you know what? I'm confusing it. So yeah, he's already there. He's there like with the troops watching them hunt this girl. And then Repo pops up and is like, whoa, don't shoot her. And we don't know why, but they let her go, only to have one of many very violent cuts to the next scene.
Yeah.
This scene I called Sick in the Bedroom. We fade out like it's a TV show, but there's no commercials. We fade back in and we're in bed with a girl from the previous scene who is now bald and quote unquote sick.
Yeah, she apparently inherited through her genes a rare blood disease that makes her have to stay inside, but the rare blood disease, I mean, when you hear I have a red blood disease, I'm thinking some sort of leukemia. It appears to be hypertension?
Yes.
High blood pressure?
You got to keep that blood pressure down. Now, folks, this is the first scene where I started to, and I don't do this throughout the whole movie because, well, frankly, I'd be insane by this point. But Tim, I wrote down some of the early dialogue of this movie just because I was like, why are you singing this? Because you can have a musical where you don't sing everything. That's not required. But they kind of went the other way with it. And if I may, this is the scene. What happened? Was I outside? You missed your medicine and lost consciousness. What? What are we doing? That's not a song. That's not what a musical does. I know what a musical does. It's not that.
Yeah. Now, this is her dad. He is a physician. What? Maybe, right? He's obviously...
Scientist.
He's the doctor / Repo. And...
Spoiler.
Oh, come on. Come now, Garrett. Come now.
Oh, come now, Niles.
Yes, but is he still a doctor / scientist, or did he just stop doing that and now he's just Repo? Because for me, it seems like he's not really doctoring so much. He's more of doing.
Well, it's a front. It's a double life. So he's paying the bills, repossessing organs, but to his daughter, he is still a man of science.
Well, right, but he's got her locked up in the bedroom, so I am imagining it's much easier just to tell her he's doing science when really he's mostly so. Like, okay, for example, let's say...
he's not showing her the science.
Sure. So, like, it's like you got a buddy who goes to Canada for his job for a week, and let's say you follow him out to the Great White North, and he's just out there slashing people. That's not his job. My point, Garrett, is that I think that he's lying about being a doctor. I think he was a doctor, and now he's a Repo, and that's it. Okay.
And I'm agreeing.
Okay.
Everyone's agreeing. You never see him doctor. The end of the movie is a big reveal that he wasn't doctoring.
He might still.
Did you watch this movie?
He could still be doctoring, though. Like, he could still have patients on the day.
On his weekends.
It's like Spider-Man. Spider-Man is Spider-Man, but he's also a photographer, you know?
Sure. One does not preclude the other, but in the events of this film, you see him do two things. Lie to his daughter and repossess organs.
Well, sure, but I also see Spider-Man do most of those things. They don't focus a lot on the photography in those movies.
Moving on. We learned that this girl's name is Shiloh. That's going to be important for you and I because we have to talk about this dumb movie. Her father tells her that she must stay inside and that, more importantly, she imagined that whole graveyard scene. She never left, she just lost consciousness, and she had a fever dream.
Yeah, I've had a friend once tell me that I went to Canada on a fever dream, and that was just my imagination. I saw nothing.
I once had a friend pick me up while I was sleeping in a movie theater, place me into a gay pornography, wake me up, and try to convince me it was a history of violence.
No,
sorry,
Garrett,
Eastern Promises.
It was Eastern Promises.
It was not. Those men were not fighting.
They were fighting so violently.
Why would somebody make a major motion picture that ends with two men having a nude brawl?
Here's the thing, Garrett. I don't think it was the ending. I think that was a mid scene. What is that movie? We should watch that movie.
Just to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Did that really happen?
Yeah.
Listeners, write in. Did you produce that film?
Shiloh has a maybe disease.
Yeah, she has a blood disease, and it killed her mother. We do learn that. And after that's revealed, her dad locks her in the room. So we learn that maybe dad's not so nice.
Yes.
She then has a solo. Shiloh has a solo with her dead mother, which is really just a picture. Well, she stares at a picture of her dead mother. She she laments her genetics with lyrics such as, "Why, oh why are my genetics such a bitch?"
I'm infected by your genetics.
These are real lyrics, everybody.
It's real embarrassing.
Okay, I want to address this. She's what, like 20 in real life? 18,
I'm
20?
not sure, yeah.
Yeah, unclear. Dressed like a little girl, which past a certain age, women dressed like a little girl is real upsetting.
Yeah,
especially
but
when like
sometimes
this is supposed to be a sexy movie.
Sometimes though the gothy thing crosses over with that.
Oh, please do not sit here and defend Sucker Punch to me again.
I'm not going to.
You've said your piece, and I just don't agree. It's not a good film.
Please, no. We're not characterizing me like this. Come on.
Whatever, dude. The only person I know that watches that movie on mute. Anyway, the scene ends with Shiloh standing at the window simply saying, "I want to go outside." And then we learn Nathan is the name of her father. We learn quote unquote Nathan's story. Back to the comic book format. And I gotta say, Tim, every time we go to that, I'm on board because you lose the disconnect of the poor production value and there's almost no singing. It's just music.
Yes.
All right, so Nathan's backstory. Happily married to Marnie. Marnie was Shiloh's mother, his wife, until she got sick. Nathan thought he had the cure, and this is where Tim's saying he was some sort of doctor and or scientist, but when he administers the cure to Marnie, it doesn't cure her. It causes her to bleed from the eyes and slowly, or quickly, die.
Now, this is what confuses me. Okay, so I guess, so they say that she passed the blood disorder on to the daughter.
Okay.
The blood disorder that the daughter has is high blood pressure.
Well, that's your assertion.
I mean, that's the movie's assertion, too. There's a watch that beeps and says, "Take your medicine, you have high blood pressure." I'm pretty sure it's just hypertension. The point, Garrett, is that why does he need to have some sort of weird one-off cure for this lady? And, well, okay, whatever. You know what? I'm trying to get logic out of this movie, and it's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. Yeah. We don't know. Well, you have to just assume she has a rare blood disease, Tim.
Right. Hypertension.
Rare blood disease.
Hypertension.
Right. Rare blood disease.
Yes. And also, all of this is, of course, told in comic book.
Sure, which I'm into.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that ends, and we come back to Nathan, who's singing about needing his wife, and he sort of blames her for leaving him, even though he's the one who killed her. Oh, and it's important that before she died, or as she was dying, he quickly took her downstairs and cut Shiloh out of her so that the baby would live. You know, normal dad stuff. As he's singing, we see him go down the hallway, and Tim, did you notice this? I guess this is, just, I don't expect an answer, but why are all the photographs holograms?
Because it's the future. You see, Garrett, it's a mix between weird Victorian bullshit and the cheapest futuristic effects you could possibly find.
Maybe what they didn't say is that Shiloh and her father Nathan are actually just lower class.
Well, they've got this huge house.
Sometimes the really big, nice houses get abandoned in the older neighborhoods.
So it's a Fight Club situation they've got going on.
They're living on paper streets singing about Marnie. Ugh. I know. All right. Anyway, as Nathan's going down his hologram hallway singing about his dead wife Marnie, he casually moves to the fireplace, pulls it open, and slips into a secret passage leading down to the basement where he removed baby Shiloh and killed his wife. But this time, downstairs, we find out that he is actually the Repo Man. The reason he's the Repo Man, though, is that after he killed his wife Marnie, somehow Roti shows up at his house, which is confusing.
Well,
and
it's
he's like, "You've killed your wife." And he's like, "Oh God, I did. And he's like, "There's only one thing to do now." And he's like, "What's that?" "Work for me indefinitely."
Yeah, there is a lot of indefinite or indentured servitude in this movie.
It's sort of like as you said, it's sort of a Victorian future, right?
Yes.
So there was a lot of that going on. Well, I won't give you a wage, but I'll allow you a fine living. And by that, I mean, you're doing this for the rest of your life, but I'll give you a room to squat in. So in this case, Paul Sorvino's basically blackmailing Nathan, saying, "I'm going to tell everybody you killed your wife if you don't murder people on my behalf." And he's like, "That seems like a normal deal. I'll do it." here's where it gets confusing. At the end of that scene, as Nathan is embracing his Repo Man lifestyle, he begins to get suited up and they reveal a gentleman tied to a wheelchair, Red Dragon style, and it's unclear who that dude is.
He's a guy that he was going to repo earlier, and then like he ran out of time or something. Maybe he had to go to that graveyard to stop them from killing Shiloh.
I guess so.
Tossed him on a wheelchair and brought him home.
Yeah, that seems weird, right? Brought him home is the strange part.
It's like when you don't quite get everything done at work, and so you just Google Drive yourself a bunch of files to maybe get to when you're after dinner or something.
Yeah, the difference being this is a physical human. You've brought him to your house.
Yeah, but not for very
the purposes
long.
Of well, sure, he's about to be meat, but they're going to do a lot of talking in between those two stages.
Yeah.
You don't bring your work home. Not when your work is murder. Take it from me.
All right.
I need to pee.
Wait.
All right. After that gentleman in the wheelchair is dispatched, we cut to Jeanco, and this is really upsetting. This is where we meet Roti's children, right?
Yes.
And it begins with the lines before you're even on the scene. Exterior, Jeanco. You hear lung and liver and bladders and hearts. You'll always save a bundle when you buy our Jeanco parts.
It's a good jingle.
It's a pretty good jingle. Everything that happens in this scene, I am not happy about.
Is this the really cavalier organ tossing?
Organ tossing.
It's unsanitary is what it is.
Well, that is not the part that bothered me.
Oh.
Everybody's like scantily clad or in a lab coat, and they all appear to be sort of like feuding with each other.
Yes.
It's all the kids. You got Luigi, Pavi, and Amber, I think are the three. And we begin with Luigi, who has choice. He's apparently got rage problems, and he's the first one to sing the most upsetting thing of the show, of the whole movie. I will find a hole and I don't even want to say this. I will find a hole and fuck it. If there ain't one, I will make one. He then stabs a nurse in her tummy.
Yeah.
And, excuse me, not a nurse. She's a gen-turn. A gene-turn?
We shouldn't start calling our interns gen-turns, right?
We're going to table that because I am literally, statistically, 50-50 on that decision. I don't even want to tip it. Let's just table it. We're going to table it. All right. Now, we haven't mentioned in detail that one of the brothers, specifically Pavi, is wearing the type of mask a basketball player would wear if they have like a broken orbital socket and it's super important that no one hit him in the face. But instead of it being made of a hard acrylic, it's another face.
Didn't they do like a really edgy Joker that did this?
Oh, yeah. He was pretty twisted.
Yeah.
And extreme.
Disturbed even. Yes.
But not damaged.
Oh, damaged. Anyway, yeah, it's dumb. He's got like hooks on the side of his head.
Yep, real dumb. It looks exactly like the Joker, actually, from the run of comics. They sing about who's going to inherit Jeanco when when Roti dies. They're supposed to be singing together, but even that's very poorly done, even when they have, for once, the exact same lines.
Right, but
they can't do it.
They never practiced it together. The first take, last take, out the door.
They did not know what the other person's lines were going to be.
Right.
Yeah, so just folks, if you haven't seen it, and again, you're an insane person for listening to this if you haven't, but good on you. Like, there's inexplicably, and when I say inexplicably, I mean the film makes zero effort to explain to you what's happening. You're just beset by these lunatics. One guy wants to have sex with stab holes. One guy's wearing another person's face. They're all casually murdering people. One person's Paris Hilton for no apparent reason. And around all of them are gen-turns that are all wearing short mini dresses, thigh-high stockings, and panties, which if there's one part of this movie that is good, it's that. But even that, in the setting and the way they execute it, it just feels gross.
Well,
it feels like a strip club with the lights on.
They've got like buckets of various organs. There's brains, there's intestines, there's all sorts of stuff, and they're just dropping them on the floor. There's blood everywhere. It's unsanitary, Garrett. I don't like it.
Sure. No, we each have problems with this scene. Then it's back to Shiloh's room. Shiloh's watching TV about the genetic opera. Can't imagine why. Can't imagine that's going to come into play later. When she suddenly gets a watch message from Roti, remember, it's the future. They're holograms. And what does he invite her to come to the circus or some shit?
Yeah, the GeneCo circus. You know how all biotech companies have circus?
There it is.
Circus. Anyway.
Syracuse.
Yes. And he tells her he can cure her blood disease that she got from her mother through her genes, obviously. And at this point, they meet at the mom's grave, right? Because that's a place...
Well, first we have to get Roti's story.
Roti's story. Yes. I found it shocking because they reveal at some point in here that Roti has had a ponytail this whole time.
Yeah, that was rather shocking. Not the most shocking, though. Well, to you and I, certainly. But Roti's story is that apparently Marnie and Roti used to be together, and then Marnie met Nathan, and she left Roti for Nathan.
Nathan is Repo.
Good point. So what we learn is that Roti actually sabotaged Repo/Nathan's experiment to cure Marnie and poisoned Marnie, making him think he'd killed Marnie and then allowing him to blackmail Nathan into becoming the titular Repo man.
Right.
This is all expressed through more talk singing from Roti before we arrive at the graveyard. Tim, why don't you take it from there?
So, yeah, he tells her that he can that he can definitely cure her blood disease, but he's not going to do it quite yet. And she has to do unspecified things at this point to get it, and she's going to be like kind of a spokesman. They're going to unveil a new cure to all blood disorders, and she's going to be the poster child for this. And there's this scene where they're in a limo together, and Roti is singing at her, and she's answering. She looks a little nervous, and she is not singing. And the juxtaposition of a man singing at a young girl in a limo and her looking scared looks insane.
It was one of the more intimidating scenes in the movie, and it's not something that I would have expected.
They go to the GeneCo circus, again, like all biotech companies have, and she briefly sees Blind Mag here.
Yeah.
And we don't know it yet, but Blind Mag was her mom's best friend. She was supposed to be her godmother, and she is under the impression that Shiloh died 17 years ago. Blind Mag, of course, also has super eyes from GeneCo, and as the payment for that is their singer and spokesman, and she does a genetic opera every night or something.
Yeah.
They briefly imprison Shiloh in a very shoddy cloth tent, and she is rescued by the narrator/grave robber, who cuts a hole in the side of it and takes her out pretty easily. And
I gotta say, maybe the most confusing scene of the whole movie for two reasons. One, where did he come from? And two, as you alluded to, Tim, everything's an exit in a cloth tent.
That's right.
All you need do is lift up a side.
Right, and also, why is she imprisoned?
That's also confusing because she's like a guest of Roti.
Yeah, a guest prisoner, yes. And the grave robber takes her out to meet his gross friends, one of whom includes a former child prostitute for some reason, current adult prostitute, played by this dead-eyed actress who does maybe the worst performance in this whole thing, where just in a monotone she said, "I had my first surgery when I was 13. Thanks to Z, I couldn't feel or remember a thing. A month later, I was turning tricks." And then she just walks away without expression. It's weird. The narrator/grave robber then sings to her about Zydrate in what I think is supposed to be the showstopper for this whole thing. Like, I think that this was supposed to be their, like, Damn It Janet or Suddenly Seymour. And it's not. I don't know. It's bad. But it's the Zydrate comes in a little glass vial, a little glass vial, a little glass vial. And the little glass vial goes into the gun like a battery. And the Zydrate gun goes somewhere against your anatomy. And the gun goes off with a little spark and you're ready for surgery. Fucked me. It's
terrible.
Yes. And
it's
around
so
this
bad.
part, so I was taking notes on this on my phone, and at some point around this point, my phone started auto-correcting Zydrate and just recognizing that as a word, and that's not good.
Yeah, nope.
Now, Paris Hilton then shows up at some point. So she was supposed to be, I guess they're transitioning Paris Hilton's character to take over for Blind Mag as the singer spokesman for this company, but she doesn't show up because she's trolling this gross alleyway for Zydrate. trait.
Oh, right. Oh, we skipped over a few things. They're not terribly important, but we did get Blind Mag's full story at this point, that she and Marnie were best friends, mother of Shiloh.
Yeah.
But to your point, the really important part is that she got new eyes, but in exchange, she's basically a lifelong slave to GeneCo. I also want to point out, somewhere in there, we cut back to Nathan, who's back in the basement again, just repoing around. Like, he has a whole song and dance number for some reason, where he just murders a guy.
Part where he
ventriloquist dummies a guy.
Yeah, because this one even has like Looney Tunes sound effects. He cuts somebody's intestines out. There's like a boing. And he reaches into this chest cavity and works the guy like a puppet to sing Thankless Job.
Yeah, he gets him to do a call and response. Can't skip that.
Yeah.
Then we get the story. Then Shiloh's in the circus tent. Then there's a press conference where Roti is asked about Zydrate abuse. And he's like, oh, my daughter Amber can answer that question. And he's sort of rapping, and it's super embarrassing for Paul Sorvino to have to do. But she doesn't show up because she's addicted to surgery. And that's where you see her in Horror Alley.
Yes. And again, I'm not sure that she's addicted to surgery. I kind of think she might just be addicted to Zydrate. And
possible.
That begs the question, if you're going to be an evil company in this world, sell Zydrate.
Sure. Which they do.
Well, sure. But like, maybe just that.
Yeah. You don't need to do all that organ stuff. Yeah. Where are the organs coming from, Tim?
I don't know.
I want to know.
And that's the other problem, because I don't understand how this company maintains such a stranglehold on the market, because it seems like it would be so easy for any other company to come along and do the exact same thing and just be like, here's the catch, we won't fucking murder you.
Yeah,
Done.
You would think.
Out of business.
It also doesn't seem entirely clear to me, like, they imply that Amber's having continuous surgeries, but then they also imply that she can't get enough legal Zydrate to have the surgeries. So she has to get illegal Zydrate to have surgery. She's going into the doctor's office being like, I'm already anesthetized, get to work.
Yeah. Well, it also seems like, given her station in life, she should be able to afford whatever, but okay.
Right? Also, she's like Mrs. GeneCo, or Miss GeneCo, I guess. Like, you just go down to the factory. You live in it, apparently.
Yeah.
Also, Tim, in the weird surgery song, they say it takes you there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was just like, oh, that is way too close to getting you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we start calling the interns Genterns and start saying we're going to take each other there. How's that worse? It feels worse. Don't even say it.
It does feel worse. All right.
Back home with Dad, Shiloh sneaks into a room, just barely missing her father emerging from the fireplace, which made me comment, what a terrible hiding place. If you, like, he has no idea if anyone's in the living room, which I don't know about most people's houses. That's where you hang out.
Yeah. But I feel like we're missing something here, because there is an actually almost approaching decent scene where Shiloh's on the phone with Repo, and Repo is like removing someone's spine, and they're both like overhearing things on the other side of the phone, and she's pretending she didn't sneak out. He's pretending he's not in the middle of a murder. Don't worry, everything's fine on both sides. And it kind of works. Like,
sort of. I mean, you're being very generous to say that it even kind of works. I was able to comprehend what was happening, and they didn't sing over each other to the point where I couldn't understand.
Sure,
anymore.
but you get what they're going for. Like, that's,
yes.
I would say more of that, more of the like violent murder take on the sitcom trope.
Sure.
She does also ride home in the back of a garbage truck with the narrator, and then she's in bed reading Evening Slice magazine.
I noticed that. Yeah, let's just back up for 10 seconds. That fucking narrator who quote unquote rescues her from a canvas tent, again, every direction's an exit. That's the same motherfucker that kept screaming, "Graves!" when there's people with guns hunting you.
Yes.
That's the first question is, well, maybe the first question is, how did you find me? But second question is like, hey, fuckface, what was that about?
Yeah. Also, I don't want to run off with you. You're bad at this.
Yeah. Are you just going to wait till we get around more cops and scream graves? Because that's not helpful. At least in this. We should also mention that the tent that she was locked in was a weird surgery room.
Oh, everything's a surgery room, Garrett. It's the circus.
Fair enough. Why? Didn't expect that to end that way. Anyway, okay, so after the conversation, they both rush home Ferris Bueller style. Repo from murdering a guy, and Shiloh from sneaking out to go to a haunted circus. Shiloh sneaks into a room, just barely missing her father. Her father then immediately quietly walks in there and she pretends to be asleep. While she does so, Roti calls Nathan to Jinko. Oh, right. Okay, so Nathan's like, okay, I'll be right there, sir. For whatever. And when he arrives, we didn't really talk about this, but did you notice the just random women lying around in Roti's office?
Yeah, one of them is Paris Hilton, I believe. But yeah, there's the rest of them. Yeah, I mean, listen, again, I don't know that you've been to that many biotech CEOs' offices, but they're mostly adorned in Victorian furniture and have scantily clad women laying about. And
yes, I haven't.
Your weird kids, one of whom is constantly murdering and the other who's wearing another human's face.
I definitely haven't then. Most of that sounds new.
Yeah. Ronti tells Repo he has to repossess Blind Mag's eyes. I guess so Paris Hilton can be the new, spokesman for the company. Blind Mag, sorry. Blind Mag, she's retiring. It's going to be her last show, and so that, I guess,
she's not retiring.
Well, she is stopping. She's not going to be the spokesman for the company anymore, and that nullifies her contract, so he's going to get those sweet, sweet eyes back.
Right. The way you're saying it makes it sound like they came to a gentleman's agreement. She's refusing to be his slave any longer, and so he is going to steal her eyes.
Right. Think about that, interns. Fucks.
Now that is a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, simultaneously, Blind Mags is visiting Shiloh, and Shiloh lets her in despite the fact that she looks like a demon from a Tim Burton movie and can project the dead from her monstrous eyeballs.
Pretty terrifying.
Yeah. Now, Repo doesn't want to kill her because, again, of the history, and he comes home. He finds Mags there. He kicks her out after they...
Oh, hold on. Before he gets home, in the whole, I'm not gonna do it. Mags a friend of mine. And Roti's like, yes, but don't you remember that time you killed your wife? And he's like, oh, right, I did. And you made an agreement. And he's like, I'll hold my agreement.
Oh, no. I'll honor my agreement. It's weird. Contract law should not be done in musical form. There's just too many chances for misunderstandings.
Yeah, that is true. It's a war of words. Anyway, during that whole song and dance number, once again, they just kill a guy.
Yeah. Well, Luigi loves killing.
Sure, but they have Nathan do it. He's repoing something, but he's not.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Yeah,
they're just getting him all fired up. So this is at least the second, if not the third guy we've seen Nathan repo without actually removing anything and returning it to the company.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah.
Very strange. Almost like they didn't think through this movie.
That's fair. So Repo comes home. Mag is there. He fights with her. He kicks her out. And then Shiloh performs a truly embarrassing pop punk song, again, featuring Joan Jett, about how she's 17, that's better than 40, and it's much sweeter than 16. And there's this whole, she's jumping around on the bed, she's singing this, and he ends this in the way he should, Garrett. He slaps the shit out of her and brings her back to reality. And listen, don't hit women, don't hit children. In this one scenario, definitely right to do it. If your kid magically transforms their room into some sort of Avril Lavigne set and sings about how you're old because you're 40, she's 17, that's sweeter than 16, slap her. It's okay. She's earned it. She's earned that slap. And I say that as a guy who has earned many a slap and really hates them.
Yeah. It all culminates with her saying, Daddy's fucking little monster. And Nathan's had enough of that. And let me say it this way, because it is supposed to be like a 17-year-old girl and her father. Nathan slaps Shiloh in the face so hard, she falls to the ground.
Yeah, it's great.
That's a very hard slap.
Here's the thing. If you wanted to really make an Avril Lavigne concert effective, right? If you want to get that attitude of rebellion, you're fighting against something, at the end of the show, ignoring the encore, before the encore, you end the show with Anthony Head Nathan, whatever this guy's name is, running out on stage and slapping her to the ground, and then she comes back triumphant for the encore. Fucking great show.
Yeah, but I think she has to shoot him in the chest.
Yeah, well, maybe they could fake the slap too.
Yeah, that's probably best. But definitely don't conjure Joan Jett. Just don't do that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I even stopped it and put on the Amazon X-ray thing just to be like, oh God, is that Joan Jett?
Yeah.
You're better than this, Joan. Oh, I'm curious. How did you watch this?
Amazon. I had the weird commercials. Yeah, it's the freebie.
Yeah, that felt like insult to injury.
Yeah, makes it just a little longer.
And the weirdest commercials.
Yeah.
Like the spokespeople seemed like to address me as though I should know who they are, but I don't. And they're selling things that I'm not entirely sure are products.
Yes, you're very old. We know this.
Okay. Back at Geneco, there's an announcement in Italian while Rotti fixes his wig, and we reveal that he, well, was one wearing a wig, and two has a ponytail, and it's terrible.
No, we knew it earlier because when he comes and picks her up at the graveyard, he turns around and that ponytail presents itself.
You're right. I'm sorry. Amber comes barging in, singing about how much she's been maimed by her latest surgery, and she sings, "I Will Never Sing Again," confusing me. Don't understand how you can sing "I Will Never Sing Again." But we finally see Amber's face at the end of the scene, and maybe the funniest part of the whole movie, second funniest part of the whole movie to me, Rotti begins coughing, which I think is supposed to be retching at the sight of his daughter's face.
So I believe, according to the Amazon thing, the trivia, he was supposed to cough up blood at this point, at the sight of her, or possibly because he has cancer, but he refused to cough up blood, and so he's just coughing, and it's confusing.
Oh, well, that's all very disappointing.
Yeah, but he sings a song, I don't know if you caught the title of this, "Happiness is Not a Warm Scalpel."
Oh, boo.
Yeah, boo indeed. But he sees how much her face sucks, and he agrees to fix it. So he buys her. She spent $90,000, and basically it looks like somebody just punched her in the chin a couple of times. So he agrees to buy her a whole new face. So we are off to the genetic opera now, right?
Oh, no, not yet.
Oh,
not
sorry.
yet. You were going to skip what I believe to be the funniest line of the whole movie. Before we get to the opera, we cut back to Shiloh's room. Nathan is sitting next to his daughter Shiloh as she sleeps when a message from Rotti inviting Shiloh to come get the cure at the opera comes in on her watch phone, whatever. Shiloh's asleep. Nathan hears the message, and to camera away from Shiloh, he growls, "So Rotti thinks he can take Shiloh." Shiloh wakes up. She's 1 foot from him. "What, Dad?" Nathan turns back to his daughter after he growled, "So Rotti thinks he can take Shiloh." "What, Dad?" "Nothing, Shiloh. Nothing, go to bed." Okay.
Well, here's the thing. Here's
hilarious.
the thing. Now, picture you saw your father, Fred, and he's growling something of that nature, and it wakes you up with that, and he turns around and goes, "Nothing, go back to bed." You say, "Okay, yep,
Sounds good.
Yep.
Also, why were you watching me sleep?
He always does.
Jesus. Then there's a glaring bright. So Nathan leaves, intent to go, I don't know, kill Rhodey at the genetic opera. And Shiloh wakes up, and it's clear that she is also going to go to the opera.
Is this where the billboard advertises specifically to her?
Yes.
Okay, now how many people in this city do you think showed up to the genetic opera thinking that billboard was talking to them?
Well, I don't think there's more than 200 people in the city.
Oh, sure, that's fair.
And most of them were planning on attending anyway, so it's sort of a win-win.
That's fair. Yeah, so, and again, this is the one thing that the movie does get right, because all new medical breakthroughs are announced at a demon carnival themed opera performed exclusively by amateurs.
Absolutely. Read your Bible. So Nathan goes downstairs to put on his Repo outfit and kill Rotti. And there's assassins downstairs because it's clear that he's not going to go kill Blind Mag. And so he's like, well, if you won't take her eyes, then I'll kill you. So they try to kill him, but it leads to one of the least exciting fight scenes I've seen in about, a decade. He basically dispatches them very quickly. All the while, Shiloh escapes in a car to head to the opera.
Yeah, Rotti makes her wear her mom's dress for some reason.
Oh, yeah, that's weird, right?
Makes it seem like he's trying to bang his ex-girlfriend's daughter.
Yeah, it did seem that way.
Yeah. Anyway,
we hear from the grave robber, who's supposed to be the narrator, briefly, leading up to the opera. I don't even remember what he has to say, but it's all over Repo Man fighting in tunnels. Did you ever figure that out? What are these tunnels?
I don't know.
Suddenly he's in tunnels.
Yeah, there might be some sort of like bat cave exit through that living room fireplace. It doesn't really matter.
The Repo Cave?
Yeah, excellent. At 108, we finally get a guy doing record scratches.
And because we're in the opera,
right.
And of course it's a rap rock.
Yeah, and there's this weird like testify number, right? So a bunch of people, and again, this would be good to have like a Phil Hartman do a Lyle Landley monorail kind of thing here, but unfortunately we get whatever this is. People basically march up the aisle and show their breasts for some reason and sing about about how like they got new kidneys or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a tent revival.
Yes, exactly. And again, it's a tent revival like science has, like legitimate scientific breakthroughs have. They have people come up and testify about how they were cured. Yes.
Sample sizes up to 10,000.
Absolutely.
It's a real logistical nightmare.
Yeah. Roti tells Shiloh, I believe via her watch thing, that she has to kill Repo, right?
Oh, it's not her watch. It's far more confusing. In maybe the most confusing part of the movie, she arrives at the opera, but she's in the back room or something. She's in a room in the same building, nowhere near anyone, and a projector magically turns on. It looks like the setup to a Saw scene.
Would you want to play a game?
But instead, it's, hey, be on the lookout for this rogue employee. He looks like a repo man. If you see him, attack him.
Yeah.
And if you do that, I'll cure you.
She has been she's been locked in a room for all of her life, allegedly. This man is a trained assassin. Why is she expected to win this fight? Like, but he does expect her to, right? It's not a I'm going to get this girl killed. He legitimately expects them to like square off. And,
well, he knows who the repo man is. And with the exception of your father and mine, most fathers do not expect their children to randomly attempt to take their lives.
Always preparing.
Always.
Yeah, but
anyway, we cut back to the stage where we see Amber is singing, and this is the first time I realized it was Paris Hilton. Mid-song, her face falls off. The whole audience begins to boo her, and next Mag appears on the stage.
Well, hold on. Let's talk about this face, Garrett, because what is underneath that face? It's a second normal face. It's not a screeching skeleton. They didn't remove her face and put a new face on, so they just put a second face on top of her face.
Well, no, it was a bloody muscle face.
No, it wasn't. It was kind of scratched up, but it looks approximately like her. Listen, Garrett, both faces. Listen here. Both faces had eyelids. Okay,
it's a bad movie.
No. Garrett, think about this. Think about how those extra eyelids are supposed to work, right? I mean,
no, I get it. I get what you're saying. Their intention was that her face fell off.
Right. But okay. But the problem is, it reminded me of those Mission Impossible style masks. But obviously this one's made of human flesh.
Right.
Here's my question, Garrett. Did you know? Fun Mission Impossible Snopple branded fun fact. Every time that suitcase makes a new face for one of them, there's a back part of that suitcase you never see where it grinds up a Bangladeshi orphan for materials.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's accurate.
It is.
Check your Britannica.
Check your IMDb.
Fun fact. What? I don't think it's going to be on there.
Anyway, but it really bothered me that essentially there's a second face under this face.
See, this is where you conflate a pitiful movie with like plot detail.
No, because I don't think it was like a bloody. I think the blood came from the underside of that first face.
No, that's where you're wrong. It's supposed to be her face falling off, but they are so bad at the effects that you can tell it's just a red tinted normal face.
Okay,
I can tell you're dubious, but your thing makes no sense.
At least edit the eyelids out.
No.
Why?
Because this is a terrible movie.
God damn it. If anything, if you spend any part of this budget, like if you really invested any of this budget in something good, it would be editing those eyelids out.
I don't know that was the part that bothered me.
I mean, it's not the only part that bothered me, but better.
Anyway, let's keep going. Mag is suddenly singing on stage. She's singing in Italian, I think.
Here's the thing. She does a great job.
Yes, it's by far better than anything else in the whole movie without any sort of classification. Singing, talking, any of it. The audience is actually quiet for once. As Mag is slowly lifted up into the air, we see that Roti is coughing in the wings. At the end of the song, Mag sings that she would rather be blind than keep singing and gouges out her own eyes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sure. Roti calmly produces a sword from nowhere, cuts the line that's holding Mag up, and she is dropped onto a spiked fence that I'm certain was not there previously.
No, it was. I made a note of looking at it. For some reason, they thought, even if they weren't thinking Roti might murder this person, don't put a wrought iron fence under somebody. Yeah. It's just bad. It's what's going to happen.
Yeah, you really do. Roti pretends that it's part of the show and tells everyone to stick around for this amazing curing of a blood disease that's coming up in the next act. Shiloh, backstage, sees the alleged errant employee, aka the repo man, aka Nathan, aka her father, and hits him with what I believe to be a shovel.
Yep.
This does not kill him, as most shovel strikes to the head will do in real life, but it does gingerly remove his mask, revealing that it is her father, and the two begin to argue.
As you would if your daughter hits you in the head with a goddamn shovel.
And yet somehow she takes the high ground.
Absolutely.
Shiloh's pissed that he lied this whole time and was overprotective. And
okay,
basically
here's the thing. I take issue with the thought of overprotective, Garrett, because if the outside world is just a demon carnival, like imagine that ICP was a band in Victorian England and everything like kind of just goes with that aesthetic. If that's the case, I think it's totally justified to Munchausen by proxy your kid into not going outside and getting syphilis by proxy. It's not overprotective. It's the right amount of protective.
It's just protective.
Yeah.
You might not be wrong. You're alluding to some things that have yet to be revealed, Tim, so I will reserve my judgment with the listener. Let's continue. Shiloh declares that she's very angry and that Nathan is dead to her, and she runs away. Nathan's furious and goes on a killing spree, mostly in comic book form, which I'm fine with because, as I've mentioned, all of those scenes look 3,000 times better. He slowly makes his way to the stage where the Rotti family is all standing about or leering, depending on which character we're talking about. And this is where we learn that Nathan does in fact have, Tim said it just a moment ago, Munchausen by proxy. And all of that medication he's been giving his daughter all these years is actually what's made her sick.
Yes.
Suddenly Nathan's in a wheelchair.
Well, I believe Luigi cuts his Achilles or stabs him in the back of the leg or something.
Okay, yeah, something like that happened.
Yeah.
I might have sneezed or gone to the bathroom.
Rotti seems to worsen pretty immediately, and he offers Shiloh the whole company if only she kills her father. She refuses, and then he shoots Repo and disowns his kid. And you get some fun lyrics here. There's the Shiloh says, "I'm not a murderer," to which Rotti replies, "But you share your dad's genetics. What if he passed this on to you?" Again, Google what genetics are. But there was one moment that I found genuinely funny in here, because all the kids, before he says that he's going to give the whole company and all of his inheritance to Shiloh, the kids are trying to fight over who's going to get his stuff. And he tells them basically that they're all disappointments. And when Rotti calls Pavi, the guy wearing someone else's face, a disappointment, under that horrific face mask, Pavi just goes, "Aw." And it felt real, and it was very funny. It was a very funny delivery.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Ogre. Yeah, because Rotti gives this funny little speech about how much he hates every member of his family, and then dies.
Yeah. And then
how we all hope to go.
Yeah, there's a moment where Shiloh and Repo sing about how they love each other or something, and that's pretty much it. There's one last mediocre call and response song from the narrator where he's talking about the future of GeneCo. GeneCo may survive if it undergoes surgery. Surgery fucked me. And
you've hand waved too many details. Let's back up the
God
truck.
Damn it. I want to hand wave all the details.
So after Nathan dies, Shiloh gets an empowerment solo with lyrics, I believe it's called Genetic Emancipation. Lyrics like, "Spent so many years resenting my heredity." Just great stuff. And for some reason, she gets into a limo and just drives somewhere. That's when you get your narrator, aka the grave robber. This time it's set to a little imposter 9 Inch Nails industrial music, but the epilogue. Did you get to the epilogue?
Oh, absolutely. Of course. We have it's sort of the
what's that movie?
Animal House, maybe?
Yeah, it's the Animal House ending.
Yeah. So Paris Hilton, her character inherits the company. She auctions the face that fell off to charity, and Pavi wins the auction and begins wearing his sister's face after Luigi killed a bunch of the other bidders that outbid Pavi.
Yeah, because we didn't mention this, but there's a more than hinted at theme that Luigi and Amber have a sexual relationship, or at least want to.
Ew.
Yeah, it's a real Richie Margot Tenenbaum situation, only they're actually related and maybe acted on it.
You know, in the original, I believe that Amber is Luigi's daughter.
Let's hope you're wrong.
Anyway.
Tim, how did this do?
Well, Garrett, this was made on an $8.5 million budget. I don't know how they possibly got that amount of money, but this film
Where is it? Where did they spend it?
This film's full 11th theater release earned $146,750 in the US. They got an additional $41,376 international. They got a total of $188,126 worldwide. I didn't do the math, but that's less than $8.5 million.
Slightly. I mean, we haven't done the math.
So it might be more.
Could be, but I am pretty confident to say that's less. Yikes. I mean, they had to have made up some of that in home video. It was on Netflix for like 8 years.
And that's fair. There is, of course, a prequel and sequel planned, but I do not believe they will be made.
Oh, thank God. What do people think of it?
Well, Garrett, there are 4,955 reviews on Amazon, 4.8 out of 5 stars on average, 87% 5-star, 2% 1-star. A lot of those 5-star reviews are sarcastic, though.
Oh.
I only really read like the first 3 or 4 pages. We really need a dedicated intern for these, but if I may, Kurt M. Keyes, 2009, titled his review, Not for the Squeamish.
It is.
Repo, the Genetic Opera, is an excellent horror film in the musical format of an opera. Many people will try to compare this to Rocky Horror Picture Show in the same way non-Epicureans will describe new food encounters by saying it tastes like chicken, when everybody knows that even turkey doesn't taste like chicken. But due to inexperience, we have nothing else to compare it to. This is not a movie you'd want to watch with the children. The violence is not implied. It is very graphic, with copious quantities of blood and gore. There are also scenes of partial frontal nudity. In certain scenes, the lyrics are unrestrained and contain the F-bomb, but not to a gratuitous level. The musical score is an excellent heavy metal cornucopia with throbbing bass lines and virtuoso guitar leads. The acting comes through on a professional level, in spite of any preconceived notions you may have about Paris Hilton's abilities. Now there's another 500 words in this review, after which this person says, I do not presume to speak for every man, but I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I hope you will also. 5 out of 5 stars.
Who writes like that?
Lunatics,
First of all,
Garrett.
yeah, who wrote 650 words on a review of Repo, the Genetic Opera? But like
so many people. These are so long, Garrett.
I will not presume to speak for every man. Yeah, no shit, dummy. It's called a review. That's why you log in and it has a username right there so we can all see it's your review. We all know how it works. It's intrinsic to the thing you're doing.
Yes. Madison Samuel from 2023. My friends and I treated Repo like something of a cult classic when it first came out. The music was catchy, the story was engaging, and apart from the overt misogyny one might come to expect from the producers of Saw, tackled a lot of heavy topics in an hour and a half. I was very nervous to pick it up after 10 years and introduce it to the next generation. Turns out, holds up. As a topic, just as topical, just as catchy, now in stunning 4K quality. A real improvement. Right. So if you're on the fence, I would definitely recommend giving Repo a spin, as long as you're open to a coming-of-age musical with a comedic amount of gore. This one's for you. Maybe call it a futuristic Sweeney Todd for reference. 5 out of 5 stars.
I've seen Sweeney Todd. This is worse.
W. Scott Heitman, 2009. Phantom of the Opera. Sweeney Todd. Moulin Rouge. Saw. Here, let me save you some time. If you liked any 3 of the 4 listed above, run to your nearest video store. You've got an unforgettable 90 minutes ahead of you. If not, keep reading. There might be hope yet. Repo, the Genetic Opera, is classed as a rock opera. Like a normal opera, there is little to no spoken dialogue. The music, however, combines the melodic and lyrical cleverness of Sweeney Todd with the industrial riffs of Korn or 9 Inch Nails. If you like the aforementioned bands, Within Temptation, Nightwish, Therion, or even Sarah Brightman, you can stop reading and hit one-click purchase. More time potentially saved. So, if you're still reading, well, the guy tries. Repo features a fantastic cast of actors and actresses. Anthony Head, Buffy's Watcher, Alexa Vega from Spy Kids, but you won't recognize her now. Paul Sorvino, Sarah Brightman, and Paris Hilton will all surprise you. Well, maybe not Sarah. You knew she could sing, right? Visually, the film is a tour de force. The sets and costumes all come across as the labor of love that they are. I mentioned Saw above, however, because the film's premise is inherently gory. This goes on for a while longer.
God, dude, this is insane.
So imagine another like 400 words there.
Sure.
Finally, let me make a plea. If you like the film or think you'll like it, buy it. All people involved would like to make a sequel or a prequel, but the movie opened in very few theaters. The hope is that it becomes a cult hit such that the DVD sales can fuel another movie. 5 out of 5 stars. One more, Garrett, from John, titled his review, Thrilling Movie, July 8th to 2023. His review simply says, makes you think different. 5 out of 5 stars.
God, if we commit a murder in 7 days or get killed, we're going to know, listeners, it was this.
It still might be the Olivia Rodrigo people.
Oh, that's true. That's true. We do have a long tail on our episodes. Not a huge peak, but a long tail. We could get murdered within the next 6 to 18 weeks. That tends to be when it drops off. Yeah, that's a great point, Tim. Let me ask you a question. Had we watched this with like other people, could this have been like, could we enjoy it? It would be like, oh, you gotta watch this. Like, is there a, it doesn't feel fun enough to make fun of.
I think that it would the first time. Maybe. Like the first, okay, how about this? The first half of this watch would have been fun if just making fun of it together.
Yeah.
But by the end, it would have, even the first time.
Tiresome.
Yeah.
Because we were watching 1998's Godzilla last night, as we do most nights. And, I hate that movie at this point, but I appreciate its rewatchability. And every time I'm able to focus on new and interesting things in the scene, even though, again, I come to loathe that film and the incessant copies that I find throughout our house. It's alarming. But this thing, man, it doesn't have that rewatchability. There's nothing to grasp onto that's fun enough. Like The Room. The Room is ridiculous. I can watch The Room a number of times and laugh and watch it with other people. This is not that kind of bad. We're getting to final thoughts. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we should just do final thoughts, Garrett.
Yeah, let's just finish it up then. Yeah, this is not good enough to be bad, or is it so bad it can't be deemed as good?
I don't know, Garrett. I half suspect they're doing like a producers type thing. Like they raised $8.5 million to make this, they stole it, and then faked making a movie to justify where the budget went.
That's an excellent way to launder money.
It's not, because then you have to have your name attached to this.
Yeah, but if you based on what we saw, if you pocket $8 million tax free, you don't got to do shit again. I've done the math, Tim, to stay at our current, borderline poverty level existence. We used to live high on the hog, but this apartment is not cheap, not to mention the world headquarters, literally on the other side of the park. Why did we do that?
I love both the Upper East and Upper West Side, Garrett.
I know, but it is pricey. Anyway, we can maintain this lifestyle with a minimum of $4 million. We have to have that in the bank. And then a combination of dividends and high interest yields would allow us to never do anything again but this.
Okay, how much would we need to never do this again?
Ooh, double it.
Oh, God damn it. All right, I'll start. Get that job at Macy's again.
I'm telling you, if you can, befriend somebody there, and then I'm going to come in as the son of God, and we're going to mess with them a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, alrighty, Tim. Anything else we need to say about this before we ask the big question? We've been all the way through it. I think we've really dissected it.
No, God.
Of the 129 minutes, how many minutes did you enjoy?
I really like that point when that guy slapped that lady. And I know that sounds bad, but you should have heard what she was singing, Garrett.
I did. It's very funny. It's a ridiculous reaction to a girl singing at you.
Yeah, I liked that. Bavi sang, "Aw."
Sure. I was going to say I liked up to 11 minutes.
I don't know that I would go 11 minutes. I'd go 7.
7 feels right. Okay. 7 minutes. Folks, this is worth 7 minutes. But you'll have to find those 7. They are not back to back.
Right. Not a consecutive 7 minutes.
No, not even a consecutive 7 seconds, probably. Okay, let's do it, Tim. Do you hate this movie?
Yes, I do. What about you, friend? Do you hate this movie?
Yeah, I do. Although I'm going to say, I know it doesn't seem like it. I hate it a little less than when we started.
Yeah, this episode was kind of fun.
Kinda.
But, the movie is terrible. Like, if you're being honest and fair, this is a hateable movie.
Yeah, it really is not good. It fails to deliver on any of the promises. It is not horror, it is not sexy, it is not an opera, and it's barely a musical.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's certainly not genetic.
Yeah, right. They have no idea what that is.
Apparently neither do I. Alrighty, Tim, as we're treating this sort of like a prepisode, though I'm pretty sure I'm going to number it like an episode, what album are we going to be talking about for the big day, Halloween week, possibly Halloween day? Is it going to actually be the 31st?
It is, yes. Assuming we get it out on the right day.
Well, sure. Remains to be seen. Assuming we do that, Tim, what album will we be talking about on Hallows Eve.
We are going to be doing the Slayer album, Garrett, Hell Awaits, which has a remarkably similar cover to that Stryper album.
Oh, I would not have guessed that. Hell Awaits. Interesting. I don't know shit about this. We'll have to wait to find out. Hopefully it is not another Stryper situation praising the Lord. Not my experience with Slayer, but it's been a minute.
It might be. We don't know.
We don't know. But for this week, we're going to wrap it up. As always, you can reach out to us, hatePodMail@gmail.com or hatepod.com. Click on contact us in the upper left-hand corner. It's going to ask for an email address. It's just so we can reply. We want to hear from you. Thoughts, ideas, comments, questions, hopes, dreams, fears. We like it all. We like your artwork. We're looking for new theme songs, whether that be for a segment or for the show itself. That theme song is 5 years old, and while we do love our good friend Sethifus, might be time to get something hip and with it. Something the kids are into.
Sethifus, you are both hip and with it.
Anyway, you can find us on Instagram, that's HatePod. Threads, I think, is HatePod. Twitter is Album HatePod. We got subreddits, Discord servers. We're out there if you want to find us. That's how you do it. But for this week, for this guy, for Why I Hate This Album, I have been one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey.
I have been the other, Timothy B. Richardson, and Garrett B. Harvey's favorite song of all time is the Hawaii Five-0 theme song. Yeah. Fun second fact, Garrett's humming it because he can't whistle because, and this is true, he has no lips.
That's not true. I don't have articulating lips. It's a nerve damage issue.
No lips, just a horrible gaping maw.
That's so alarming. And untrue. It's just rude. Stop laughing at me.
End of episode.
There's cowboys running through my dreams. Nothing's quite the way it seems. I joined the Navy, got kicked out in a week. My facial features aren't distinct. Try to find some meaning in these songs. The genius is a genius, got it wrong. No, it's a lobster murder sex thing. It's the bleaching of the rear. A full assault on both your ears. Riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides, the cover art's a mess. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's the Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Gary.